Remember, there's some pretty important information here in the disclaimer. You might want to give the video a quick pause and read it.
Maveric Hunter. A Mega Man FPS that got cancelled before it was even announced. Relevance 0. Interest? None. Mr. Wait, you must rebuild it, because I paid you $20 to do so. He will look twice as good as his original design. And he will actually get a release date. His posability will be better. His appeal will be higher. His comeback faster. He is Maverick Hunter X.
Ready?
Coming back into relevance. Right about now.
Hello, my friends. This is Wake Angel 2001, and thanks to Captain Fedora making that really cool intro sequence, I guess I don't need to make any exposition about this figure. Except, of course, the fact that apparently, although that game never really got past the concept art stage, the artist who created that version of Mega Man X would later go on to create Iron Man for the MCU, which is such an iconic design that they redesigned him in the comic books to look that way. So, yeah, that's actually really cool. That's a huge accomplishment. That guy should be very proud. So, because of that, the base figure is going to be an Iron Man figure. Specifically, the Invincible Iron Man. I think it's some kind of like a stealth armor deco, hence the silvers and grays over the iconic hot rod red and gold that he normally goes with. And of course, since this is a Mega Man, the most iconic part of him is going to be the X Buster, like his gun. Now, you're seeing what looks like back of the napkin drawing. This is actually the back of an extra piece of paper I happen to have next to my desk drawing. One thing that I was really good at in high school was technical drawing. That's really the only engineering-related thing that I could actually do well. I could not learn to code to save my life, but I could do this part. So whenever I need to design 3D printed parts that I make myself on Tinkercad, simple drawing like this helps me come up with the way to make all the pieces. Because I'm actually kind of helpless if I try to design it directly on the computer itself. I don't know, just call me old school, but this is just how my brain works. So I drew it all 1-to-1 scale with the actual action figure's hand in place, and, designed in Tinkercad a 3D model which would print out to fit onto that hand. And the hand is glued in place. You can't take the Buster out of the hand. I figured if you tried to do that, then you'd scratch the paint up every time you did so, because I actually do have to stretch the fingers open to make the handle go in there. And we're just taking advantage of the hand swapping gimmick. When you want X to not have the Buster, you just pull the hand off and swap it out for one of the alternate hands. In addition to the shape of the gun itself, there's this shield thing that goes over the gun. I think this is supposed to imply part of his arm has opened up to release the gun barrels which formed over his hand, which I actually would have been really excited to see transform in the game because that sounds really cool. But, this is all just decorative elements. It's basically this shield thing which I've attached to the gun using a little bit of good old-fashioned epoxy sculpt. And that is the Buster hand, as I'm going to call it. And speaking of epoxy sculpt, this is the only place where actual hand sculpting really comes into play, is decorations of the helmet. It turns out that it actually doesn't take that much to turn Iron Man's head into X's head. Just gotta sculpt on a little bit on the cheek and the forehead thing, those iconic Mega Man style ears, and some things that go into the face to kind of constrain everything into that X shape. With a proper paint job, you can see what I'm going for here, as it really does a good job of capturing that look of the X-shaped visor. the naturally recessed part of Iron Man's face playing perfectly into the lines. And of course, I didn't want to just paint the whole thing blue. That would make it all monochrome and boring. Besides, the figure has a really cool shade of silver going on, which I wanted to try and preserve because it's just a genuinely cool color. So I mixed a more metallic blue by adding silver paint to my blue paint. Had to add a drop of black paint in too to make it darker again because adding silver to blue made it look like a light blue, like almost teal in color. I somehow managed to make a gunmetal silver paint by mixing a bit of black paint with my silver, which almost perfectly matched the figure's natural silver. So excellent. Everything worked out perfectly. I'm showing the blue patches added to the helmet to make it look more Mega Man-like, and the gun is also painted in that distinct pattern. Like parts of the barrel are gunmetal silver to like show the internal. Like I think the implication is that blue parts were his external armor, which is now the shield on the back of the gun, and the gunmetal parts are like pieces of his internal arm that have come out to form the cannon. It's Mega Man. Like their arms just turn into big ass cannons. That's like the least Iron Man thing about Mega Man. Although later on, Iron Man would do that, like the nanite Iron Man suit, like what he wore when he fought Thanos, like the way that weapons could just morph out of it. That looks more like Mega Man than anything else now that I think about it. But I digress. So almost all the work, fabrication-wise, went into making the X Buster and the helmet. So the rest of the body is largely just a repaint, showing off how the arm looks with that cannon equipped. Although, funnily enough, the figure, I could only get the arms off at the shoulders and I could remove the feet, but I really couldn't get any other parts of this figure to dismantle. So, yeah, that was kind of a thing, having to paint this figure mostly in one piece. There was also a huge setback wherein, after painting the chest, I tried applying the sealant spray to make sure it wouldn't chip, only for me to not put enough of the sealant spray, which apparently, this is something that, despite the fact that I've been using this product for nearly a decade, if you don't spray enough of it, it turns white. It turns into a white, crystally cakey substance on whatever you sprayed it on. So you have to make sure you spray enough of it on that it forms a solid liquid layer. Otherwise, it will foam and bubble on itself. This is a very, very big setback. I didn't take any pictures of it, but suffice to say, I had to scrape off the sealants as best I could, repaint the figure again, and then respray it again. Fortunately, everything worked out so that the torso does not scrape itself when you use the ab crunch. There's a part of the torso that is directly under the sliding plate, which I painted over with a layer of crazy glue. Crazy glue is not something you want to use as a sealant normally, but when you need super extra protection on a part that's going to be subject to a lot of moving, sliding bits over it, that's when you want to apply your extra, your extra layer of protection with the crazy glue. And of course, I repainted the swapping hands because this is preserving the swapping hand gimmick. These being the gesturing ones, and there's also a holding thing hand, which didn't have a plate in the back, so I didn't have to repaint that one. So here is Mega Man X FPS version. Here he is standing idle with his two regular hands, fists in this case. Although you can also swap out those gesturing hands to use the original effects parts so that he can shoot blasts out of his hands. I mean, Mega Man, he absorbs powers from the Mavericks he defeats, so maybe one of them just has laser hands. We don't know. That game never came out. Of course, he's still rocking the traditional Buster arm, and even if the cannon isn't quite shaped like the whole big barrel of doom that it has from the original game, I still think that's a pretty cool design. And this Iron Man figure did come with a sword, which he still has a holding thing hand on his left hand, and he can kind of wield it like Zero's saber. Yeah, like if you want to do because I know in the Mega Man X games, he would also be able to wield Zero's saber in several of those games, so, Yeah, now he has that look too, so you can do that. So that is Maverick Hunter X, which is actually what this thing is properly called. I think they were going to call the game Maverick Hunter X, but I don't know. Maybe that they figured that was too edgy, and it took away from the cartoony appeal that is the Mega Man franchise, even the relatively more serious X spinoff. But yeah, that is the figure. Thank you all for watching this video, and I will catch you next time. It's Wake Angel 2001 signing off.